Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If sign-in system in high school DxD. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 141, Disciplining the Spoiled Brat Devil, Tormenting Diadora. My voice was loud, and almost everyone present heard it clearly, turning their gazes towards me with strange expressions. Bastard, were you mocking me just now? A mere low-life human ant dares to attend a devil's banquet. After a moment of silence, Zephyrdoor turned his gloomy face towards me, his tone extremely hostile. He had disliked me from the moment he saw me. Rias, as the princess of the House of Gremory, was exceptional in status, strength, and appearance. Countless devils in the underworld were infatuated with Rias, and Zephyrdoor was one of them. Now, seeing me not only close to Rias but also surrounded by a bevy of beauties, he was completely consumed by jealousy. Hearing his words, my brow furrowed, and my tone turned ice-cold. Here's some free advice: shut your filthy mouth and get lost, or face the consequences. Ha, who do you think you are, brat? Get away from Princess Rias right now. Seeing Zephyrdoor still spouting garbage, even Serord couldn't stand it anymore and cracked his knuckles. However, I acted first. I had no intention of tolerating him any further. I raised my hand and slapped him. Smack! A sharp slap echoed through the hall. Zephyrdoor went flying, crashing into the wall and even creating a large hole. His mouth was twisted, teeth knocked out, spitting blood as he lay motionless on the ground. If it weren't for showing some respect to Surzax and the others, I would have used much more force than that tiny slap. Otherwise, Zephyrdoor's life would have been forfeit right then and there. Lord Zephyrdoor. Seeing their master in such a state, Zephyrdoor's peerage members' faces changed drastically, ready to lash out at me. You really? However, I merely glanced at them. They immediately spat blood and knelt on the ground, too terrified to utter another word. Hiss. A collective gasp echoed through the banquet hall. They had thought they were in for a good show, but they hadn't expected this human to be so ruthless and powerful. Before the other devils present could even react, Zephyrdoor and his peerage were already in such a miserable state. At this moment, my face remained cold, and I spoke calmly. Get this trash out of here immediately. If I weren't here as an invited guest, both he and all of you would be dead already. Hearing my words, they scrambled to carry Zephyrdoor and fled the scene as fast as they could. They were terrified that if they delayed even a second longer, their lives would be forfeit. Seeing this situation, the hall fell into absolute silence. Rias sighed helplessly, rubbing her forehead, speechless but saying nothing. Serorg, on the other hand, was even more excited now. My way of handling things completely suited his temperament. If it weren't for his status as the successor to the House of Baal, he would have stepped in himself at the very least, beating Zephyrdoor half to death. Just then, Serord noticed me looking around and asked curiously, "Are you looking for someone?" Hearing this, Rias and the others also became curious about who I was searching for. Could it be Sona and her group? Yeah. Do any of you know who Diadora is? I asked, my sharp gaze sweeping across the devils in the hall. Diadora Astaroth? I remember him being a blood relative of the current Mao Beelzebub, and also the next head of the House of Astaroth. Don't tell me you have a grudge against him? Serorg asked suspiciously, seeing the murderous look on my face. I do have a grudge. Right now, the only thought in my mind is killing him. My words instantly stunned Serorg, making him doubt if he had heard correctly. Diadora was the successor of a Mao's blood relative family. Killing him would be like slapping Mao Beelzebub in the face, no different from suicide. At this moment, Rias and the others stared at me in shock, completely baffled as to when I had developed such hatred for Diadora. Kyoya, do you have some kind of grudge against Diadora? Rias asked. Seeing everyone's confusion, I explained my reasons for wanting him dead. Diadora Astaroth, as the next head of the Astaroth family, is a complete nun fetishist. His entire peerage consists of former nuns and saints. He's also the devil who got saved by Asia back when she was known as the Holy Maiden, which is why she became a witch. But it was all a charade, an act orchestrated entirely to get close to Asia. He exploited her kindness, waiting for her to be expelled from the church before swooping in. Now, however, I intend to make him pay tenfold for the pain he caused Asia. Pervert! Scum! Hearing this, Rias and the others were enraged. Zenobia, especially as a former member of the church, cursed him furiously. Even Serorg, who had initially wanted to urge me to calm down, now had an extremely grim expression. He hadn't expected Diodora to be such a vile and despicable person in private. He was simply disgracing the name of devils. So, Serorg, that bastard hurt my family. I can't let him go. Now you understand, right? Hearing my words, Serorg nodded in understanding. No wonder Kyoya wanted to kill Diodora badly. If this had happened to him, he would have staked his own life to take revenge. After all, nothing was more important than family. As time passed, the young devils of the underworld gradually arrived at the banquet hall. Just then, Serorg's gaze sharpened. He saw a male devil with an innocent, harmless appearance, always smiling, walk into view. This person was Diodora. Noticing Serorg's gaze, I also reacted immediately, walking towards Diodora. I grabbed his arm and applied slight pressure. A miserable scream echoed throughout the banquet hall. The originally lively scene instantly fell silent. Seeing me, Diodora's eyes suddenly turned gloomy, and he roared angrily, "Bastard, what is the meaning of this?" Seeing this, I didn't waste words. I directly used mental out, completely tearing away his hypocritical and ugly mask. Watching the rambling, vile nonsense spewing from Diodora, the devils in the hall were all stunned. They hadn't expected the seemingly harmless Diodora to have such a fetish obsessed with nuns and employ such despicable methods. Especially the former nuns and saints who were part of Diodora's peerage. After hearing the truth, their eyes glazed over, their minds completely shattered. Chapter 142, The Terrified Underworld Devils, Diodora Astaroth's Death. In their hearts, the perfect, kind, and gentle Diodora's true face was actually so hypocritical and despicable. Then, I pulled the snake of Ophis out of his pocket and showed it to everyone, slowly explaining, "Hey, the snake of Ophis. You're also a member of the Cows Brigade, aren't you?" Exclamation point. What? Joined the Cows Brigade? Is this the snake of the infinite dragon god? Bastard, Diodora Astaroth. As the successor to the House of Astaroth, you actually colluded with the Cows Brigade. Are you trying to betray the devils? After seeing the item in my hand, Rias, Serorg, and all the devils present were enraged. They had thought Diodora was just a despicable person, but they hadn't expected him to join a terrorist group like the Cows Brigade, and even act as an inside agent for their attacks. Everyone stared at Diodora with gloomy eyes filled with killing intent, as if looking at a dead man. Immediately after, I grabbed Diodora's neck with one hand, and black flames instantly crawled over his entire body. What followed were piercing screams, but he still stubbornly threatened me. Bastard! I am a blood relative of Mal Beelzebub and the next head of the House of Astaroth. You can't kill me. To this, Rias, Serorg, and the other devils watched coldly, unmoved, quietly observing Diodora being killed. Blood relative of Mal Beelzebub or not, even if you were the Mao himself, betraying the devils would still warrant the death penalty. As the black flames continued to burn, Diodora was reduced to ashes, completely disappearing from this world. As for Diodora, I could only describe him as utterly useless. He didn't even warrant a system task. Although this is your devil's affair, this guy had a significant grudge with me, so I apologize. I said, flicking my hand and walking across the banquet hall towards Rias and Serorg with a smile. Diodora probably would have marked spatial nodes to launch attacks on the underworld later. So, I guess I did a good deed. Hearing this, Rias, Serorg, and the others, who knew my true strength, twitched their lips and rolled their eyes at me. Although I had my back to them, I could clearly feel countless gazes focused on me. And murmurs came from behind him. Is this guy really human? Isn't he too abnormal? Yeah. Zephyrdor and Diodora were both instantly defeated. I remember him. He's Lady Rias's fiancé. What? Could he be the human who defeated the Red Dragon Emperor and the White Dragon Emperor? Hiss. Is this guy a monster? As they spoke, the new generation of devils looked at me with faces full of admiration. Hearing the devils' discussions, my heart remained exceptionally calm. After all, I knew very well this was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Strength was everything. Especially for devils who worshipped power, great strength naturally earned their respect and admiration. However, after such an incident occurred, the devil higher-ups quickly sent people to handle the aftermath. Not long after, Surzex's queen arrived at the banquet hall and announced the official start of the Underworld Conference. She led me and the new generation of devils to the Underworld's main hall. At the very top of the hall sat the four great mouths of the Underworld: Surzex Lucifer, Seraphol Leviathan, Ajuka Beelzebub, and Falbium Asmodeus. Below them were the devil higher-ups, such as the devil elders, the heads of the devil noble families, and other prominent devils. Immediately, Evelyn respectfully said to me, "Lord Kyoya, your seat is up there. Please follow me." Hearing this, I looked indifferent and followed Evelyn to the upper part of the hall. Seeing a throne, I couldn't help but be slightly surprised. After a moment of surprise, I still sat down beside the four great mouths and asked doubtfully, "Is this all right? After all, I'm just a guest in the underworld. Kyoya, your status is even higher than ours. And you've helped us immensely," Surzex replied with a smile. "Indeed, thanks to you, that traitor Diodora has been dealt with, otherwise, he could have become a major problem." Ajuka Beelzebub looked at me, expressing his gratitude. "Kyoya, it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I am Falbium." Falbium Asmodeus greeted me with a chuckle. Seraphol Leviathan, on the other hand, glanced at me nervously, seemingly afraid to meet my gaze. Because of our previous encounter, where she had left abruptly, she was afraid I would use this opportunity to tease her again. Towards the mouths, I smiled and responded one by one, then glanced at Seraphol, revealing a mischievous grin. Seeing my expression, Seraphol quickly turned her head away, looking flustered. Witnessing this scene, I was taken aback. It seemed I had teased her too much back then. I smiled and shook my head. When Serorg saw me sitting alongside the mouths, his eyes widened abruptly, filled with disbelief. What's going on? Seeing Serorg dumbfounded, Rias, Sona, and the others covered their mouths and chuckled softly. It wasn't just Serorg and Sikvera Agars among the new generation of devils. Even some of the higher-ranking devils who didn't know the situation were stunned to see me. Remember, just moments ago, I had beaten Zephyrdor and killed Diodora, yet now I was laughing and chatting with the four great mouths. Didn't that mean my status was comparable to a Mao, possibly even higher? Thinking of this, they couldn't help but feel awe towards me, while also wondering about my true identity. The subsequent developments were pretty much the same as I remembered from the original story. The devil higher-ups used their linguistic artistry, feeding them motivational speeches, praising them as the new generation of devils, the future of the devils, and so on. Finally, Surzex and the other mouse began asking about their dreams. When Serorg directly stated his dream of becoming a Mao, just like in the original story, it drew ridicule from many devils, but he didn't care at all. Sona also stated her dream, to establish a devil school without class distinctions. However, unlike in the original story, the devil nobles didn't dare mock her casually. After all, through Surzex, they knew my true identity. Any careless remark could bring disaster. As for Rias, her dream was naturally to become an outstanding head of the Gremory family, exactly the same as in the original story. Chapter 143, Serorg, you've really got guts. After all the devils had shared their dreams and received their fill of motivational speeches, the banquet officially moved on to the main topic. Surzex and the other three mouths began a heated discussion regarding the matter of the Chaos Brigade. Just then, Serorg, much like in the original story, suddenly declared his desire to join the fight. "Your Majesty Surzex, like Habari Kyoya, I wish to join the main force in subjugating the Chaos Brigade. Please grant me permission." Hearing this, Serzex looked at Serorg's sullen face, his brow furrowing immediately as he refused without hesitation. No, I do not approve. You should remain in the underworld and continue your training. Why? Serorg asked, a puzzled expression appearing on his face. He had assumed His Majesty Serzex would agree to his request, especially since his dream was to become a Mao. If he could successfully join the subjugation of the Yi Cao's brigade, his chances of competing for the Mao position in the future would greatly increase. As for staying in the underworld to train, that wasn't suitable for him anymore. What he needed now was life-or-death combat experience, the tempering of blood in battle. Seeing Serorg's stubborn expression, Serzex and the others exchanged wry smiles and shook their heads. Serzex then tried to persuade him. Serorg, your current strength is insufficient. Subjugating the Cao's brigade is too dangerous. As an elite of the new generation of devils, I absolutely will not allow you to participate. Serzex's tone was firm, clearly intending to quash Serorg's request. After all, the number of pureblood devils in the underworld was already dwindling, with a clear generational gap. Now that they finally had a successor with such outstanding strength, character, and potential, Serzex and the others absolutely couldn't allow him to come to harm. Hearing Serzex's firm refusal, Serorg grew anxious and retorted somewhat defiantly. Your Majesty Serzex, since Hibari Kyoya participated in the battle against the Yi Cao's brigade, I can too. Let me fight Hibari Kyoya once. If I win, please don't stop me from joining the battle against the Yi Cao's brigade. Exclamation point. I, who had been watching the show, suddenly felt my mouth twitch, utterly speechless. How did this suddenly involve me? Serorg's astonishing declaration also stunned Serzex and the other high-ranking devils, their faces turning extremely strange. Serorg, do you know what you're saying? After a long silence in the hall, Serzex finally looked at him with a peculiar expression and slowly uttered a few words. Mawajuka Beelzebub also tried to dissuade him. Serorg, you should give up. Seriously? Wanting to fight Hibari Kyoya? You've got guts, kid. Talk about reckless youth. Forget just you, even if the entire underworld's devil population teamed up, they probably wouldn't be enough for Kyoya to handle. Even without using his trump card, Kyoya possesses power comparable to the dragon gods. Not to mention the power of that dragon phantom. Gutsy. Really gutsy. Despite the persuasion from the underworld's higher-ups, Serorg remained unmoved, stubbornly insisting. Your Majesties, please don't try to persuade me any further. I'm determined to have this battle and I'm willing to accept the consequences. Although he knew I was strong, he wouldn't back down. Even if he lost the match, he would have no regrets. What a headache. Kyoya, what are your thoughts on this matter? Seeing things develop to this point, Serzex was also uncertain. Out of respect, he asked for my opinion. Very well, I'll spar with him. Let him see how vast the world truly is. Hearing this, I pondered for a moment, then finally agreed to his request. Sai Serorg, don't blame me later for being ruthless. This is for your own good. The terrorists of the Yi Cao's brigade were practically all insane. They were not opponents Serorg could deal with. Although Serorg was strong, it was only relative to the new generation of devils. If he encountered Cao Cao, Ryzevim Levon Lucifer, Valley, and the others, he'd be no match for them and might even lose his life. Hearing my words, Serzex breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, in that case, I'll have to trouble you, Kyoya. Serorg, I accept your request. If you can defeat Hibari Kyoya, then I will approve your joining the main force against the Yi Cao's brigade. However, if you lose, then stay obediently in the underworld and continue your training. Serzex then turned to Serorg, speaking with a serious expression. His words caused an uproar. The devils below the dais were already stunned beyond words. They wondered about my identity. How could I sit on equal footing with the four great Maos? Even the Mao were respectful towards me? And they were even more curious about how strong I really was, that the devil higher-ups unanimously believed Serorg, the top devil king, would undoubtedly lose. Rias, Sona, and the others, familiar with all my abilities, looked strangely at Serorg, pity evident in their eyes. Serorg, you could have challenged anyone, why did you have to challenge Coyote? Thinking back to how I had trained them, Rias and the others couldn't help but shudder. Soon, an alternate dimension battlefield appeared. Due to the special nature of this match, Mawajuka, the inventor of the evil pieces, personally constructed it. Immediately, Serorg and I entered the sparring ground, a vast plain. Watching Serorg and me, Surzex asked with interest, "How many moves do you think it will take Coyote to defeat Serorg?" His words piqued the interest of the other three mouse, who enthusiastically shared their opinions. "I think if Coyote goes all out, he can kill Serorg in one move." Serafal spoke first. To this, Falbium had a different opinion. No. Even if he doesn't use his full power, Serorg probably won't last a single hit. I absolutely agree. Ajuka nodded. Watching the four great mouths arguing and the other devil nobles joining in, the numerous devils below were completely dumbfounded. What is going on? Especially the words of the mouths left many devils astonished, their faces filled with disbelief. Yet he would be instantly killed? By someone not even using their full strength? However, recalling the attitude of the four great mouths and other high-ranking devils towards me, perhaps I really did possess such strength. Subsequently, the devil's eyes lit up with excitement, staring intently at Serorg and me, afraid of missing some astonishing scene. Chapter 144, The Completely Defeated Serorg, Punishing Serafal. Arriving at the alternate dimension battlefield, I glanced at Serorg and smiled calmly. Serorg, aren't you going to use your sacred gear, the Regulus Nemia? Thank you for the consideration. However, since you intend to fight me in close combat, for the sake of fairness, I won't use it. Serorg replied, his expression shifting to excitement, fighting spirit blazing in his eyes. In that case, without further ado, let's begin. I looked at Serorg and shrugged helplessly. Seeing my calm, unreadable expression, Serorg tensed, a hint of unease creeping into his heart. He couldn't see through me. The next moment, without warning, Serorg's figure suddenly flashed, vanishing from his original spot. The terrifying force of his launch cracked the ground beneath him into a massive crater. In a mere instant, he appeared before me. This stunned the spectating devils. They hadn't expected Serorg to be so decisive, launching a surprise attack right away. However, the next moment, Serorg's attack passed straight through my body. An afterimage? Seeing the phantom before him, Serorg was incredulous. How could his speed be this fast? Suddenly, Serorg's expression changed drastically. My figure had appeared behind him without any warning. Serorg let out a sharp yell, erupting with even greater power, forcefully twisting his body to attack me behind him. Flowing water rock smashing fist. However, as I softly uttered those 5 words, an even more terrifying force slammed into Serorg. Put! A mouthful of blood sprayed from his mouth, scattering into the air. Even though my punch didn't directly connect with Serorg, the difference in our strength was too vast. He couldn't even withstand the force of the air pressure generated by my attack. Instantly, Serorg was sent flying like a broken kite, crashing far into the distance, lying motionless on the ground. Few good thing I didn't use my full strength. I was worried I might accidentally kill him. I muttered, wiping a cold sweat from my forehead, feeling slightly apprehensive. Outside the alternate dimension battlefield, the spectating devils were already dumbfounded. Is this real? Serorg was taken out in one punch? So the mouths weren't joking. But this is just too ridiculous. Relying solely on physical strength, without even making contact, Serorg was sent flying. Is the difference in their strength really that big? The numerous devils below the dais were extremely excited, their gazes fixed on Coyote, filled with adoration. Coyote's strength has grown again, Surzex remarked with emotion. Every time, he manages to redefine my understanding of him. It seems we don't need to worry about the Yi Cao's brigade and the other worldly crisis anymore. Surzex smiled faintly, relief washing over his face. After all, I was Ria's fiancé, his brother-in-law. Perhaps, in the future, the Gremory family would become even stronger. TCH, you act like you don't know how terrifying his true power is. If he got serious, the sheer pressure alone would be enough to crush Serorg. Serafal pouted, feigning indifference, but her heart was actually in turmoil. Wa Sona-chan, this lecture is getting stronger and stronger. I'm probably going to suffer at his hands soon. Surzex nodded silently in agreement. The miserable state of the two heavenly dragons, Valley and Lux, was still vivid in his mind. As for Mausa Juka and Falbium, along with the other devil nobles, they were even more horrified internally. Crushing an ultimate-class powerhouse with just aura alone? That's just absurd. However, they firmly believed it. After all, I was a true monster. Meanwhile, back in the alternate dimension battlefield, after a long while, Serorg finally staggered back to his feet. However, Serorg was already drenched in sweat, his face pale, as if just standing up had drained all his strength. His eyes held a hint of bewilderment. My strength made him feel a profound sense of powerlessness. If you had been willing to use your sacred gear, perhaps you wouldn't be in such a miserable state, I said, a trace of regret showing on my face. After all, I genuinely respected Serorg. That was why I had deliberately held back. I had dodged his attack, then used the flowing water rock smashing fist to defeat him. I didn't want him to lose too disgracefully. Otherwise, he wouldn't have even gotten a chance to make a move. Using a fist technique rewarded by the system to defeat Serorg could be considered a sign of respect. I had wanted a fair duel. I just hadn't expected the difference in our strength to be so vast and insurmountable chasm. Serorg replied with a wry smile after recovering slightly. I concede this match. Suddenly, Serorg shouted towards the outside of the field. Ding! Congratulations, host, for completing one red-grade gift bag task. Just as Serorg conceded, the system's voice sounded, as expected. After returning, Serorg was taken away for treatment due to his somewhat heavy injuries. Strangely enough, even though Serorg suffered a crushing defeat this time, the number of underworld nobles supporting him increased dramatically. Perhaps it was because devils worshipped the strong, and also respected those who dared to challenge the strong. Next, the banquet continued, and Surzex specifically emphasized the upcoming devil raiding game. Soon, the banquet for the new generation of devils officially ended. Afterward, Surzex and the others began discussing the matter of the dragon phantom with me. Regarding this matter, my suggestion is to reveal everything, the crisis of the otherworldly evil gods, as well as your identity, during the raiding game, as people from various pantheons will be present. We can use this opportunity to make it public. Hearing Surzex's words, I agreed nonchalantly. Weren't you staying at Little Rias-chan's place? Why are you following me back? Looking at Kyoya's narrowed eyes, Serafal puffed her cheeks angrily. Originally, I had been staying at the Gremory household. Sona and the other girls hadn't seen me for a long time, so during the banquet, Sona invited me to the Citri house. Naturally, I readily agreed. Besides, I could thoroughly tease Serafal, this magical girl. It was killing two birds with one stone. And along the way, I found various excuses to touch her all over. Looking at the aggrieved Serafal, I chuckled. Do you think someone I've set my sights on can escape? If you dare to leave without saying goodbye again, I'll strip you naked and spank your bottom. Hearing this, Serafal's face instantly turned crimson, and she retorted shyly and angrily, Why you pervert, lecher, hentai? I remained indifferent, letting her vent, then smirked. When we get back to the Citri house, come to my room, and we'll continue filming the magical girl segment. We didn't finish last time, did we? Don't even think about running away. Hearing this, Serafal's face twitched, blushing furiously, on the verge of tears. Right now, she looked so weak, so helpless, pitiful, really, like a little lamb about to be devoured. Chapter 145, Kuroka Attacks. The 2 days I spent at the Citri residence were quite enjoyable. I lived like an emperor. Upon learning of my impending engagement to Rias, Sona's parents expressed their desire to intervene, even requesting to have Sona engaged to me as well. Moreover, the Citri family was even wilder, suggesting that since Sona was still young, I could unite with their eldest daughter, Seraphal, first. That way, they could have grandchildren sooner. Their words left everyone thunderstruck. Seraphal was furious. If Sona and the others hadn't held her back, she might have blasted her old father away. However, precisely because of this incident, Sona also became more cautious, keeping a close eye on me at all times. So, these past 2 days, I hadn't even had a chance to make a move on Seraphal, which left me quite frustrated. Meanwhile, as time passed, the Underworld raiding game competition arrived. At this moment, the Devil City was bustling with excitement. Not only devils, but also Michael, Azazel, and representatives from other factions had arrived in the Underworld. This raiding game was truly unprecedented, a grand spectacle. Just as everyone was mingling, my arm was suddenly pulled. Turning my head, I found it was Kaneko Tuju. "Kaneko-chan, what's wrong?" I asked with a smile, patting her head. However, Kaneko's face was solemn, her voice trembling. "Senpai, it's One-ichan. I sense One-ichan's aura. She must be nearby." So that's it. No wonder Kaneko looked so serious. It must be Kuroka deliberately revealing her aura to lure Kaneko out. This plot point happened in the original story too. Understanding the situation, I nodded. In that case, go meet Kuroka. I'll follow you secretly, Kaneko-chan. Okay. With that, Kaneko and I, one after the other, quietly left the city. Before long, Kaneko arrived in a forest, her eyes scanning the surroundings, seemingly searching for her sister's figure. "Chiron, long time no see, Naya." Suddenly, a slightly charming and seductive voice came from a large tree above. A black-haired catgirl was lazily draped over a branch, her 2 tails swaying behind her. Her figure was stunning, and the armor on her chest jiggled enticingly, making my blood rush. Kuroka, Kaneko Tuju's older sister, not only could she use magic, angel spells, and yukai techniques, but her barrier abilities were also second to none among all the characters. Kuroka-ne. Seeing the newcomer, Kaneko's eyes were complicated, her tone heavy. "I'm so happy Chiron came running as soon as I revealed a bit of my presence, Naya." Kuroka continued to lie lazily on the tree, a smile in her eyes, her golden, vertical pupils fixed on Kaneko. "Kuroka-ne, what are you doing here?" Kaneko asked seriously, looking directly at Kuroka. Knowing her sister was an SS-class wanted criminal in the underworld, her sudden appearance in the underworld surely meant something significant was about to happen. "Don't be serious, I came all this way just to see my little sister Chiron." Kuroka winked at Kaneko, acting cute. However, Kaneko didn't believe her. She knew her sister must be hiding something. "Kuroka-ne, what is your real purpose? If you don't tell me, I'm leaving." Kaneko took a deep breath and asked again. As expected, seeing Kaneko about to get angry, Kuroka's eyes flickered nervously. "Actually, I came here this time to take Chiron away with me. Back then, it was your big sister who only cared about escaping, and didn't take you with me, so..." However, before Kuroka could finish, Kaneko interrupted her, revealing the truth with a complicated tone. "Kuroka-ne, I already know what happened back then. You killed that devil to protect me. And to avoid implicating me, you chose to leave alone." "I already know everything." "Eh?" Hearing Kaneko's words, Kuroka's pupils constricted, her pretty face filled with shock. She hadn't expected Kaneko to know the truth of what happened back then. But perhaps, for her, this was also a good thing. "Chiron, since you know the truth, then come with One-ichan. I have the power to protect you. I won't let you suffer anymore." Saying this, Kuroka moved, appearing directly in front of Kaneko, ready to take her away. "I won't agree to you taking Kaneko-chan, Kuroka." Just then, I suddenly emerged from my hiding place, then glanced towards another spot and said indifferently, "The one hiding in the dark, come out now. Or do you want me to personally drag you out?" "There's someone else?" Kaneko exclaimed in shock. The next second, a young man appeared behind Kuroka, carrying a red iron staff, with a golden circlet on his head. This was Biko. Yo, I remember you're called Biko, right? But why don't you have any fur? That's a bit strange. I teased with a smile. Hearing my words, Biko stumbled, almost falling. His mouth twitched as he looked at me speechlessly. Seriously? Usually, he's the one making fun of others. When did it become someone else's turn to tease him? However, clearly knowing my identity, Biko didn't dare to retort and could only reply with a wry smile. To think the renowned Hibari Kyoya would even know of an insignificant person like me. What an honor! What? He's Hibari Kyoya? Hearing this, Kuroka stared at me in astonishment. My name was practically known throughout the three realms. Even the Yi Kao's brigade had listed me as someone absolutely not to be provoked. As Valley's comrade, she knew exactly how strong Valley was. Yet, even when he teamed up with Lux, they were still miserably defeated by me. In fact, Valley and Lux were still recuperating at their base, their injuries not yet healed. Even more terrifying was that through Valley, they learned just how horrifying I was. The master of the Dragon Phantom, with strength far surpassing the dragon gods. She hadn't expected to encounter me here today. Kuroka, there's nowhere safer for Kaneko-chan than by my side. So you can't take her away. And you don't have the ability to take her away either. I subconsciously patted Kaneko's head and raised an eyebrow at Kuroka. In front of her older sister, my intimate action instantly made Kaneko's face turn completely red. Chapter 146, Taming the Wild Cat, Odin and Azazel's Quarrel. Seeing this, Kuroka knew her sister was deeply in love with me and quickly reminded her. Hibari Kyoya, Chiron is still young. You can't make a move on my sister, Naya. Hearing this, I raised an eyebrow, looking playfully at the seductive Kuroka, and said flirtatiously, "Oh? Can't make a move on Kaneko-chan? Then how about you take her place? A pair of catgirl sisters, just perfect. Senpai. Pervert." Kaneko blushed furiously upon hearing my words, puffing her cheeks and glaring at me, looking utterly adorable and naive. Kuroka, on the other hand, couldn't help but lick her lips, her expression becoming even more captivating as she chuckled. "I wouldn't mind the children we have together will surely be outstanding in the future, Naya." As a Nekashu, Kuroka was already in heat. And I, possessing bloodline surpassing even the dragon gods, was naturally her ideal partner. Kaneko looked resentfully at her older sister. They had just met, and she was already trying to steal her man. In that case, everything is much simpler now, I said, stroking my chin, then turned to look at Biko with a smile. "I'm keeping Kuroka. Any objections?" Sensing my playful gaze, Biko gulped, speechless. The hell? Can I have an objection? If I say one wrong word, I'll probably end up like Valley, crippled, if not dead. Seeing Biko's awkward expression, Kuroka suddenly spoke up with a smile. "Biko, why have you become timid? Just tell Valley truthfully that I'm staying with Hibari Kyoya, Naya." Hearing Kuroka's teasing, Biko couldn't help but roll his eyes. Easy for you to say. However, realizing he was just a messenger, and that Valley would be the one dealing with the headache later, it wasn't his problem. He simply nodded and left. Seeing this, I took Kaneko and Kuroka back to the Mouse Party venue, preparing for the raiding game competition scheduled in about 10 days. As a member of Rias's peerage, Kaneko naturally had to participate. So, I took Kuroka to the spectator area. At the entrance of the conference room, the guards respectfully said, "Lord Kyoya, His Majesty the Mao and the other lords are already waiting for you." Entering the conference room, the first thing I saw were the leaders of the three factions. Seeing me, Azazel, still looking disheveled, greeted me with a smile. "Yo Kyoya, long time no see." Although he was still a bit upset about being extorted for several artificial sacred gears last time, he didn't seem too bothered. Archangel Michael also greeted me with a smile. "Kyoya, thank you so much for your help last time. Thanks to my intervention, Heaven's system was finally functioning normally, and quite a few pure-blooded angels had already been born." Michael was in a great mood, a heavy burden lifted from his shoulders. He felt very grateful towards me. However, when Michael noticed Kuroka, he asked in surprise, "Kyoya, the one behind you. Could it be the SS-class stray devil, Kuroka?" Hearing this, everyone turned their gazes towards Kuroka. Being stared at by so many powerful figures from the three realms, even the usually lawless Kuroka looked terrified, her heart pounding nervously. "That's right. But she's under my protection now," I said calmly. Then, I briefly explained the cause and effect of the original incident. To think that even Biko, who inherited the bloodline of Sun Wukong, joined the Chaos Brigade, that's unexpected. Surzex remarked. There's no need to worry about Biko and the others. After all, they just crave challenging strong opponents. They're not inherently harmful. I shrugged, indicating it wasn't a big deal. Everyone nodded upon hearing this. Compared to the truly terrifying terrorists of the Chaos Brigade, Valley and the others were indeed small fry. By the way, regarding Kuroka, I hope the warrant for her arrest can be revoked, I suddenly reminded Surzex. No problem. Surzex readily agreed. Watching the powerful figures treating me with such respect, Kuroka felt as if she were dreaming, too shocked to speak. "Oof, don't you young people know how to welcome this old man?" Just then, a weathered voice sounded, and someone pushed open the door to the conference room. Everyone looked over and saw an old man and a young girl walk in. The old man wore an old hat, an eye patch over his left eye, and had white hair and a long beard. His attire wasn't particularly fancy, just a simple black robe. Perhaps due to back problems, he leaned on a staff. The girl beside him had white hair, wore silver armor, and had two conspicuous colics on her head. I immediately guessed their identities. The old man was the chief god of Norse mythology, Odin. As for the girl behind him, she was Odin's Valkyrie bodyguard, Rosweiss. Well, long time no see, you old geezer from the north." Azazel greeted them with a chuckle. "Indeed, it has been a while, you fallen scum. I feel a headache every time I see you all getting along so chummy. You're not planning some other ridiculous scheme, are you?" Odin replied slowly, sitting down on the sofa and stroking his beard mockingly. "We're not like you backwoods gods. Young people should break through and not be bound by the past." Azazel shot back. "TCH, the typical mentality of a complete loser. Just a bunch of kids who lost their god in Maus," Odin scoffed. "What the? Your mouth spews nothing but bullshit. You damned old geezer." Azazel cursed. "And you lot acting like a bunch of kids playing house. You fallen punks." Odin shot back. I watched the two curse each other with great interest. Kuroka was completely stunned. Is this really the image of a god she remembered? Why do they look like street thugs? Watching Odin and Azazel argue and curse, Surzex felt a headache coming on and had no choice but to interrupt helplessly. Chapter 147, The Valkyrie Who Never Had a Boyfriend. Odin didn't hold back against the devils either, continuing his verbal assault. He fired off insults indiscriminately, roasting almost everyone present. I couldn't help but feel my eye twitch. This Odin's mouth was like a machine gun, just rattling on and on. Everyone in the hall had dark lines forming on their foreheads. "Yoho, you must be that Kyoya kid who's been stirring up trouble lately, turning the world upside down. I heard you even shouted about wanting a harem during the Three Factions Summit. Not bad, kid. We should exchange notes sometime." Odin looked at me, his expression utterly lacking the dignity expected of his station. "Lord Odin, what nonsense are you spouting? It's completely indecent. This is unbecoming of the name Valkyrie." Hearing Odin's words, Rosweiss pouted and retorted. "Humph. You, a useless Valkyrie whose age equals her dateless history, what do you know about dreams?" Hearing Rosweiss contradict him, Odin mercilessly berated his own Valkyrie. Wah wah. Unexpectedly, Odin's words actually made Rosweiss burst into tears. "Stop crying, you useless virgin Valkyrie. It's because you're always so stiff and proper that you can't even snag a hero or a man." Odin's words struck Rosweiss like sharp swords, instantly shattering her defenses. "Why, I also want a boyfriend, but what can I do? Then, Rosweiss directly collapsed to the ground, sobbing loudly, looking completely broken. This scene utterly stunned everyone present. They looked at Odin with increasingly strange expressions. Especially Azazel, whose mocking gaze made Odin want to grab Gungnir and poke a few holes in him. However, Odin's gaze swept around, finally landing on me, a smile curling his lips. Kyoya kid, what do you think of Rosweiss? Taken a liking to her? If you want, I'll toss her onto your bed tonight. Exclamation point. Hearing this, everyone present had varied expressions, looking at Odin strangely. Odin's lack of scruples completely refreshed Azazel's opinion of him. To think he'd try to sell off his own Valkyrie, truly shameless. Just as expected of the old geezer. Playing dirty. Azazel quipped. Humph. Fallen punk, are you looking for trouble? Odin shot back. Hearing this, Azazel chuckled sheepishly. No. But perhaps you should hear the opinion of the person involved. Odin turned his head to look at me, anticipating my answer. Seeing everyone's gazes focused on me, I felt rather speechless. So, I looked at Rosweiss. Just like in the anime, she was indeed a beautiful, white-haired Valkyrie beauty. Due to harsh living conditions, she had the flaw of being a bit of a penny pincher. And as Odin's Valkyrie bodyguard, her standards were quite high, hence her complete lack of romantic history. Raised by her grandmother since childhood, she loved her grandmother dearly and sent all the money she earned from her devil work home, a very filial girl. Moreover, Rosweiss also had a red task marker associated with her. Sign-in character, Rosweiss, task grade, red, condition, abduct her home. Well, I quite like Rosweiss. If she want, I can be her boyfriend, I replied, looking at Rosweiss, feeling quite pleased. Hearing me agree, Odin's reaction was even more excited than Rosweiss, as if afraid I would go back on my word. Hey, useless Valkyrie. How about letting Kyoya be your boyfriend? Kyoya is not only strong and handsome, but also very rich. He's more than enough for you. Odin said, looking meaningfully at Rosweiss, tempting her with her weaknesses, trying to push her towards me. After all, Rosweiss was really annoying, always managing him and undermining him. He had wanted to replace his bodyguard for a long time. Hearing this, Rosweiss' gaze shifted towards me, her face flushing crimson as she fell into a fantasy. Boyfriend? Is that really okay? But how does one do that? Is it going shopping, eating, watching movies, and then going to a love hotel? Instantly, as if a switch had been flipped, Rosweiss started rambling non-stop. This stunned even Odin. What has this useless Valkyrie been watching? Has she really never been in love? But Odin didn't have time to listen to her rambling. He smacked her on the head and urged loudly. Stop blabbering. Just say yes or no. Woo, but if I leave, who will protect Lord Odin? Rosweiss asked doubtfully. I don't need your protection. As for a bodyguard, I'll find someone else to replace you. As a girl, you must pursue your own happiness, understand? Odin squinted, putting on a I'm thinking of your well-being expression. Is that so? Rosweiss looked at me upon hearing this, her eyes immediately shining. In that case, let's try dating first. Then, Rosweiss murmured shyly, her face completely flushed. After all, no single Valkyrie could guarantee she wouldn't be moved when faced with such an outstanding man. Even though I had many women around me and had even declared my intention to build a harem, Rosweiss didn't seem to mind. Odin burst out laughing upon seeing this. He had wanted to get rid of this useless Valkyrie for a long time. Finally, he could go find some beauties and enjoy himself. Seeing Odin's reaction, Azazel and I shot him disdainful glances. Dirty old man. But not bad. Not only did I complete the task and get a red grade gift bag, but I also gained a white-haired Valkyrie beauty. Big win. System, open all the gift bags. Ding. Red grade gift bags opened successfully. Congratulations, host, for obtaining 1 Magic Power promotion card and the 9 Shadowcon armies. A magic power promotion is not very useful to me now. I'll give it to one of my women later. As for the Shadowcon armies, from Jackie-chan Adventures. They are like all shadows, they can merge with and travel through shadows, and have the ability to phase through solid matter. There are 9 distinct legions. However, with the enhancement of my magic power, their strength should be significantly increased. They can help me handle some trivial matters. Not bad. Chapter 148, Chaos Brigade Attack. The magic power erasure technique shocks everyone. Everyone, the battle between Rias, Sona, and the others is about to begin. Let's watch first. Surzex reminded everyone with a smile. Hearing this, everyone sat down, waiting for the raiding game to start. You guys really have a wicked sense of humor. These 2 girls are your sisters, and they're best friends, yet you're making them fight each other. Odin stroked his beard, looking playfully at Surzex and Sarah Fall. Hearing this, the 2 remained unfazed, firmly believing their respective sisters would win. However, just as Rias, Sona, and the others were teleported into the alternate dimension space, an accident occurred. Strange magic circles continuously appeared around them, gradually increasing in number and surrounding Rias, Sona, and their groups. In the blink of an eye, hundreds, even thousands, of devil legions surrounded them. Simultaneously, a dense white fog appeared around the conference room, trapping Kyoya and the others inside. They're allied with the Chaos Brigade, the old Satan faction. Wait. This white fog. This is the ability of the sacred gear, Dimension Lost. Could this be an attack by the Chaos Brigade? This series of sudden events caught Surzex, Azazel, Michael, and the others somewhat off guard. Even the chief god of Norse mythology, Odin, now removed the eye patch from his left eye. The crystal-like object in his eye socket shimmered with mysterious runes. A moment later, Odin's expression turned solemn. This is tricky. Even I can't break this spatial ability of Dimension Lost. At best, I can only open a one-way passage, enter only, no exit. Hearing such bad news, Surzex could only smile wryly and turn to me for help. Kyoya, I'm afraid we'll have to rely on you for this. Hearing this, I chuckled softly and waved my hand dismissively. It's a trivial matter. Leave it to me. Actually, I wasn't too worried about this. After all, Rias and the others, having received my blessing, some of them practically possessed ultimate class strength. Coupled with the protective spells I had placed on them, I wasn't concerned about them getting injured. Looks like you have a way to deal with this seal. Don't tell me you're going to use the power of that mysterious dragon? Odin asked, his interest instantly piqued. With Kyoya here, there's no need to worry, Archangel Michael said, still maintaining his smile. Hurry up, Kyoya. Show me what mysterious power you're going to use this time. Azazel urged excitedly, his eyes wide. I stood up, took out the Astil manuscript, and muttered an incantation. Connect to the library of Pride, execute the theme of Control. As soon as I finished speaking, a black coat instantly appeared on me, adorned with partial gold trim, looking somewhat ornate. This. What is this? Could it be some kind of magic formula? Azazel's eyes flickered, his words filled with surprise. I do sense magic. Kyoya kid, that in your hand should be a grimoire. Odin's gaze was sharp, he saw its essence at a glance. Michael and Surzex exchanged glances, their faces filled with amazement. My methods were simply endless and impossible to guard against. Indeed, I praised him. This is a type of mage mode from another world. It connects to 7 archives, pride, gluttony, lust, and so on. The library I'm currently using is Pride, with the theme of Control. It can also use the magic of other mages. And the magic power erasure technique I've mastered can completely erase almost all magic-related power from others. My words instantly stunned the leaders of the 3 factions present. Magic power erasure was commonly known as the stripping technique, but for the sake of dignity, I didn't mention that part. There's such a strange type of mage. Amazing! Azazel exclaimed excitedly. Erasing magic power? That's practically an invincible trump card. After all, everything in the three factions relies on magic power. This thing is the bane of all supernatural beings. Odin couldn't help but feel dismayed while being shocked. He had sacrificed his left eye to Mimir's well to gain mastery over various magic power, and other techniques. And now, Kyoya's magic power erasure technique directly broke his defense. Kuroka and Rosweiss also looked at me with smiles in their eyes, feeling increasingly glad about their respective choices. Immediately, I stopped wasting words and directly activated the technique, magic power erasure. Connect to the theme of control. Directly erase all magic here. The next instant, all the surrounding white fog and seals dissipated completely. Even the constructed alternate dimension battlefield shattered directly. Rias and the others, who were originally in the alternate dimension battlefield, along with the old Satan faction devils, instantly returned to reality. Witnessing this scene, Odin was filled with terror. This means of eliminating magic power was too outrageous. It seemed that without even using the dragon's power throughout the entire three realms, perhaps even the Great Red might not be Kyoya's match. To quickly resolve the old Satan faction colluding with the Chaos Brigade, let's split up. With that, I took Kuroka and Rosweiss, and the three of us vanished in an instant, heading directly towards Rias's location. Hearing this, Surzex and the others also turned serious. They immediately split into two groups, planning to quickly deal with the attackers. When the three of us arrived, we found that Rias, Sona, and the others were actually constantly suppressing the old Satan faction devils. Although the old Satan faction had the advantage in numbers, most of them were mid-class. Even though there were quite a few high-class, they were still gradually falling. Currently, Rias, Sona, and some of the other girls possessed the strength of ultimate class, while the weakest among the rest were high-class. Therefore, through mutual cooperation, the old Satan faction was actually at a disadvantage. Seeing this, I decided to just watch for now and not interfere, using this opportunity to properly hone them. Suddenly, my eyes narrowed slightly, glancing towards a certain spot, a look of disdain on my face. Those two little bugs think I can't find them just because they're hiding? Naive. A long while later, the battlefield was littered with devil corpses. Rias, Sona, and the others, working together, finally killed all the attackers from the old Satan faction. Chapter 149, A world-shattering blow leaves everyone stunned. I stepped forward, arriving directly in front of Rias and the others, praising them with a smile. Nicely done. You didn't disappoint me. Hearing my voice, Rias, Sona, and the others looked up in delight. Kyoya. But when they saw Kuroka and Rosweiss behind me, their expressions faltered, and they looked a little speechless. In just a short while, Kyoya has picked up two more girls. What a sinful man. You two rats hiding in the shadows, are you planning to stay hidden? I paused, then looked towards the ceiling of the hall, my tone indifferent. My words startled Rias and the others. There was someone else nearby? Suddenly, the surrounding space above the hall distorted, and then two figures materialized before everyone. Simultaneously, the system issued a task notification. Sign-in characters: Shalpa Beelzebub, Cruisery Asmodeus, task grade, red, task condition, kill. Just a red grade task? I sneered internally, glancing at them disdainfully. With strength only at the ultimate class devil level, they still had the audacity to launch an attack? Shalba, as a descendant of Mao Beelzebub, had used one of the snakes of the infinite dragon god Ophis to obtain power comparable to a Mao. However, he was brutally defeated by Issei Hayadu's incomplete juggernaut drive and later rescued by Hades. He was ultimately eliminated by Issei. As for Cruisery, he was completely insane. To reclaim the position of Mao Asmodeus, he had attempted to single-handedly take on the three top powerhouses, Surzex, Azazel, and Michael. Ultimately, he was instantly killed by Mao Surzex with overwhelming power. They were both absolute morons, idiots who delivered themselves to their deaths. Hibari Kyoya, we know you killed Kokobeel, and even defeated Kateria Leviathan, along with the two heavenly dragons Valley and Lux. However, you are absolutely no match for the two of us. If you agree to work for us, we can spare your lives. Otherwise, you'll just die here. Shelba and Cruisery spoke arrogantly, looking confident of victory. Hearing this, I looked at them with contempt. Idiots! My insult instantly enraged Shelba and Cruisery. They replied coldly, "Bastard! Go to hell!" Without further hesitation, Shelba and Cruisery absorbed the power of Ophus's snakes, their strength instantly reaching the level of Mao's. A couple of weaklings relying on external power to reach Mao level. Immediately, Shelba raised his hand and unleashed a beam of light, an attack resembling the light-based powers of angels and fallen angels. Cruisery, his face twisted in a ferocious grin, gathered immense, violent purple magic power in his hand. A purple pillar of energy burst forth. Facing such feeble attacks, I simply raised one hand and condensed a blue ripple of energy, instantly swallowing their attacks completely. What? Seeing their attacks effortlessly erased by me, Shelba and Cruisery's faces paled. They were very aware of the power of their own attacks. These were attacks capable of easily destroying an entire country. Yet, they couldn't even scratch me. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. That's all you've got? Now, it's my turn. Saying this, I gripped Excalibur. Countless rays of light gathered within the blade. Furthermore, I activated the Logos Art and Outer Alchemic spells from Trinity 7, amplifying the Holy Sword's might. This is bad. We need to retreat. Even these ignorant fools could feel the intense wave of mortal danger. Cold sweat dripped down their foreheads. They were well aware of the terrifying power of this attack, especially an attack from such a powerful holy sword. They were surrounded by the aura of death itself. So, they quickly turned and tried to dodge my holy sword attack. But could they possibly escape my grasp? The answer was obviously no. I looked coldly at the two figures fleeing in the distance, then swung down Excalibur with all my might. Excalibur! Facing the terrifying beam of light hurtling towards them from behind, they had nowhere to run. They could only use all their magic power to create a defensive barrier. No. However, following Shelba and Cruisery's desperate and unwilling roars, their magic barriers, along with themselves, were directly swallowed by the beam of light, turning to ashes, and completely vanishing. And it wasn't over yet. The beam of light released by the Holy Sword continued on its path, piercing through the boundary of the underworld, and reaching even the human world. The powerful energy poured out completely, illuminating the dark night of the human world. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Even the underworld trembled violently. It took a long time for the tremors to subside. Damn, no wonder they emphasize upgrading equipment in games. An enchanted Excalibur is simply ridiculously powerful. Seeing the devastation I caused, I couldn't help but click my tongue in marvel. The full power of Excalibur, combined with the Logos Art and Outer Alchemic spells, had greatly amplified the Holy Sword's might. Even against Trihexa, the Beast Emperor 666, I wouldn't hesitate to face it head-on. This single strike could likely heavily injure it. Looks like I need to develop more new moves in the future. At this moment, all the powerhouses observing the Holy Sword attack were dumbfounded, unconsciously swallowing hard. Valley, let's not go after Kyoya. I think Kuroka will do just fine with him. Biko wiped the sweat from his forehead, looking at Vala beside him, his mouth twitching. Valley. Arthur. Lofei. Hearing this, Valley was speechless, feeling a deep sense of powerlessness. Why is Habari Kyoya getting stronger and stronger? At the same time, Odin was also filled with terror, staring blankly in my direction, muttering to himself. I'm really getting old. No. I must quickly sign a peace treaty with the three factions, otherwise. With that, Odin casually used his staff to eliminate the nearby Old Satan faction members before rushing towards my location. Kyoya, that's just ridiculous. You instantly killed two Ma-class powerhouses. Rias and the others snapped back to their senses, astonishment evident in their voices. Even knowing my capabilities, witnessing this scene firsthand still inevitably shocked them. The picture was simply too horrifying. Especially Kuroka and Rosweiss at this moment, their jaws were wide open in shock, large enough to fit an egg. To this, I could only shrug and reply with a smile. They were too weak, offered no challenge. Barely passable, I guess. Chapter 150, Abducting the Adorable Infinite Dragon Ophis. Who on earth is the Epee Dragon? T2 weak? Mao class is considered weak? Rias and the others were utterly speechless, all rolling their eyes at me. However, perhaps from my perspective, they were indeed a bit weak. Let's go. We should meet up with Azazel and the others, I said, sheathing Excalibur. I explained the current situation to Rias and the others, then led the group towards Surzex's location. Along the way, everyone chatted back and forth. When Rias learned about Kaneko and Kuroka's past experiences, she and the other girls felt immense sympathy for Kaneko and fully accepted Kuroka. Simultaneously, I took the opportunity to open the 2 red-grade gift bags. Ding! Congratulations, host, for opening red-grade gift bags X2. Obtained, complete set of breathing styles, Epee Dragon Song, .dut. As the system's voice sounded, my smile instantly vanished, replaced by a look of utter speechlessness. Breathing styles. Is this the ability from Demon Slayer? I thought, recalling scenes from the anime. The breathing styles were invented by Yoriichi Tsujikuni. They enhance cardiopulmonary function, allowing the blood to gain a large amount of oxygen in a short time. This greatly enhances the user's physical abilities, temporarily granting them physical prowess comparable to demons. The original breathing style was sun breathing, from which the 5 basic styles flame, water, wind, stone, and thunder were derived. Subsequently, other breathing styles were developed. This reward is quite useful. I can teach it to Zenobia, Kiba, Tomo, and other sword users later. But this Epee Dragon Song. Damn it, system. Giving me this utterly shameless thing. I'd rather die than sing this cringy song. Before long, several figures appeared before us. It was Odin, the leaders of the 3 factions, Vala's group from the Cows Brigade, and a Kuderi Loli with long black hair, dressed in a gothic Lolita outfit. Seeing this, the corners of my mouth involuntarily curled into a slight arc. Ophis, the infinitely cute dragon, I finally get to meet this dragon Loli today. Valley, you really delivered. First Kuroka, now Ophis. Well done. Evidently, Ophis had also noticed me. Her usually indifferent eyes now showed a rare ripple of emotion. Her expressionless little face revealed a trace of intense excitement and infatuation. Finally, I found you, Hibari Kyoya. Ophis's figure flashed, appearing before me. Her small, delicate hand caressed my face, her expression somewhat infatuated as she spoke softly. Rias and the others were somewhat wary. After all, they didn't know Ophis's true identity but suspected she was a member of the Cows Brigade. Moreover, the intensity of the aura radiating from her was terrifyingly powerful. Aside from me, no one present could match her. Looks like you've already figured out her identity, Hibari Kyoya. This is our leader, Ophis. Vala chuckled lightly, noticing the change in my expression. What? Ophis? She's the leader of the Cows Brigade, Ophis? The legendary infinite dragon god. She's a bit different from what I imagined. Rias and the others were utterly stunned. The legendary infinite dragon god leader of the terrorist group Cows Brigade was a Kuderi Loli? And unbelievably cute? It completely shattered their worldview. At this moment, I also discovered the task associated with Ophis. Sign-in task, Ophis, task grade, gold, condition, abduct her home, dispel her desire to return home. Seeing this task condition, I felt secretly delighted. After all, although the infinite dragon Ophis was extremely strong, her personality was innocent and naive, unaware of worldly affairs, the purest lowly dragon. Everything she did was aimed at defeating the Great Red, reclaiming the dimensional gap, and regaining her initial tranquility. Abducting her home was child's play for me. As for dispelling her desire to return home, that might be a bit troublesome. However, with enough effort, even an iron pestle can be ground into a needle. After spending some time together, I was confident I could make Ophis stay. Ophis, what do you need from me? I asked, patting her small head with a gentle smile. Towards my intimate gesture, Ophis showed no resistance at all, instead becoming even more infatuated with me. The power level of the dragon within you surpasses even Great Red. I need your help to defeat her and reclaim my initial tranquility. Ophis's red lips parted slightly as she hugged me, shaking her head adorably. Is that why you came looking for me, Ophis? I sighed. Even after existing for countless eons, the cute dragon Ophis was still as pure as a blank sheet of paper. Precisely because she was too pure, coupled with her terrifying power, the Chaos Brigade emerged, aiming to deceive and exploit her. Even though Ophis knew their intentions, she still held onto a sliver of hope. After all, she just wanted to return to the dimensional gap where she was born. I don't quite understand either. Deep down, I just want to see you, want to stay with you always. This feeling is very strong. Ophis's inner turmoil grew even stronger, feeling my presence. Hearing her words, my gaze softened. This is probably the mutual attraction between dragons. And the stronger the dragon, the easier it is to attract the opposite sex. Ophis, how about staying with me? Once I recover my strength, I'll help you defeat the Great Red and reclaim your place of tranquility. At this point, I began my persuasion technique. As for power recovery, that was pure nonsense. I could already borrow the Azure Dragon's power anytime, anywhere. However, to abduct the cute dragon Ophis, I naturally needed an excuse to keep her by my side. Witnessing this scene, Rias and the others rolled their eyes at me. However, this time, Rias and the others didn't resist. After all, abducting the leader of the Chaos Brigade would greatly weaken their greatest support. Dealing with them in the future wouldn't be too hard. I want to be with you. Saying this, Ophis tilted her head slightly and lightly pecked my lips. This is what I saw humans call a thank you gift. After speaking, the infinite dragon's expressionless little face seemed to flash with a hint of red, looking incredibly cute. Hearing this, although I was greatly shocked by the cute dragon's actions, the joy in my heart was already overflowing onto my face. Azazel, witnessing this scene, revealed a smug grin, looking utterly punchable. Surzex glanced at Rias, feeling helpless. Rias, your ambition to seize the position of the main wife might just fall short. That wraps up this part of What If Sign-In System in High School DxD. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.